There's a second version of you pulling every string in your life.
And in the next 20 minutes, you're going to catch them in the act, which is the exact moment they can't hide from you anymore. Here's the deal. You were raised to believe you're a rational person who mostly makes good decisions and sees other people clearly. Every self-help book, every productivity guru, every think your way into a better life influencer who sold you the same story. And it's not your fault. It never fully worked. You weren't failing. They were selling you the wrong operating system. An operating system against your very human nature. Robert Greene spent his life arguing there's an older, wilder operator running the real show.
Hi.
Okay. Installed in you before you could talk. There are 3 things that quietly run every human being alive, including you, including everyone who's ever manipulated you. I'm going to hand you all 3 cleanly by the end, but we go down before we go up. Because the first one is the reason you can't see the other 2. Want to hear something that'll ruin the way you experience your own thoughts? Every decision you think you reason your way to, you actually felt first, and then your mind built the reasons afterward. Like a lawyer defending a client it never chose. Greene calls this the law of irrationality. You are not a thinker who sometimes feels. You are a feeler who narrates after and justifies. Every single thing that you think in your mind, every belief, every pattern, it's an unconscious reaction filtered through the lens of your emotions.
That's disgusting. I can't believe you even said that on YouTube.
Think about that. You have an unconscious belief deep within your mind, maybe subconscious, or maybe you're just reactive about something. Either way, your thoughts are formed by your emotional state. Men pride themselves on being the most rational animal, or whatever you want to call it. I'm more rational than a dog. And why is that? Maybe because you can observe yourself, and maybe because you can actually form a thought in your head. But perhaps you're just like a dog barking in the wind when you cannot control your own emotional state.
What did you say?
Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics knew this already. They knew that your emotions determine your rationality. If you truly wish to be a rational man, you must first control the lens of emotions that you interpret the world through. But that's piece 1 of 3, and it's the smallest. Here's a callback you'll want to hold. Everything I'm showing you, other people are already using on you. The only difference is they can see the strings and you can't. Piece 2 is where that starts to hurt. Keep going. I'm here with you, don't worry. Your brain is doing something right now that you were never told about. It's managing an audience. Greene's law of role-playing. All the world really is a stage, and you've just been a character, an actor, so long you forgot it's a role. Your thoughts have been wandering away for so long, focused on the perception of other people, that you forgot to live in the moment itself. You forgot to think like a rational being, so concerned about others. The confident voice at work, the fake laugh you don't feel, the constant reminder in the back of your head to keep your spine straight, the face you make in the mirror before you walk in a room. These aren't lies exactly. They're a mask. And the mask has a purpose. It lets you survive in the social hierarchy without bleeding in public. But here's the leak. Your body can't keep this secret. Greene points out that most of what you're actually saying happens with no words at all. And this is backed with real psychological studies. Over 80% of your communication is actually done with just your body language, meaning that 24/7 you're actually leaking your real thoughts and emotions. the half second the eye gives away, the mask covers the face. It never covers the body. Which means everyone around you is broadcasting their real state constantly. And so are you. We don't pick up on this in a conscious manner. We automatically feel it. You automatically feel when something's off, subconsciously. Humans are social creatures, and with long periods of times in a social environment, we've naturally adapted to picking up on psychological triggers without even speaking. Emperor Augustus ruled Rome by playing a humble man of the people while holding absolute military control. The performance was the power. Now, and the danger isn't wearing the mask. The danger is the moment you forget it's a mask and mistake it for your actual face. Greene has a name for that. He calls it psychic catastrophe. The role eats the person, so you ask yourself honestly, when's the last time you took yours off? Do you even remember what's under it? Because there's something there that you've actively been not looking at. And it's been running things the whole time. You, specifically, have a pattern. And you run it over and over. And every time you swear this time is different, the same kind of partner, the same self-sabotage right before the edge of success, the same argument in a new relationship. Greene's law of compulsive behavior says this isn't bad luck, and it isn't a series of unrelated events. It's a character. And character engraved early, before you had any say, by the emotional weather of your first years. People never do something just once. Behavior is a pattern, and the pattern is old. Howard Hughes had a need for total control forged in childhood. It built him an empire. Then, the same need, unexamined, sealed him alone in a dark room and bankrupted his life. Same string, whole life. Same subconscious fear, same pattern. He never looked in himself for it. This is the part people resist. So let me pair it with the truth. The pattern running you isn't a character flaw. It's a child's brilliant survival strategy that outlined the danger it was built for. It kept you safe once. It's just still driving long after the road changed. So whose voice is it really when you talk to yourself out of the things that you want? You didn't write that line, someone handed it to you. And underneath, it is the only one you've worked hardest your whole life to meet.
Listen guys, this isn't in the script, nor is it in Robert Greene's book, but if you really want to make a massive difference on your life and you genuinely want to change the trajectory so much that let's say right now there's two potential realities that you can go through. You have one where you stay in the same position forever, and you have another where you just go straight up. And the only difference is the action that you take right now. And I'm telling you, if you do this inner work, you can have the best life you possibly imagine in your mind. God gave you an imagination for a reason. Please use it, and please do the inner work with meditation, journaling, etc. I'm going to put together a free document in the description for anyone who needs help. Thank you so much.
You know what? I love myself. Even though I look like a burnt chicken nugget, I still love myself.
Here's the one you're going to resist. And the resistance is proof. There is a version of you that you have spent your entire life disowning. Every trait you were ashamed of as a child, the anger, the neediness, the hunger, the cruelty, you didn't delete it, you buried it. Greene, borrowing from Carl Gustav Jung, calls it the shadow. And the buried thing doesn't die, it runs underground. And it leaks in the joke that was a little too sharp. The accident that wasn't. The thing you swore you'd never do and did it anyway. Nixon built a pious public face over a private well of resentment he refused to look at. And the shadow he wouldn't face is the exact thing that walked out onto those tapes and destroyed him. What you won't look at doesn't wait quietly. It waits for leverage. Stay with me here, because this is the bottom, and we won't stay long. The reason this feels so heavy is that you've been taught that your shadow is the enemy. It isn't. Greene says it plainly. The gold is in the dark places. Everything you exiled took your energy down with it, which means the thing you are most afraid to look at is also in the vault. And that vault, deep within your subconscious mind, is controlling your emotions, your beliefs, and lens of reality. You think you control your actions and thoughts? No, your subconscious and shadow is actually orchestrating it all before you could even form a rational thought. Okay, finally, now we can take a step into something a little bit more lighthearted. So here's what changes when you finally look up. Every force we've named, the emotion that moves first, the mask, the childhood pattern, the buried self, they all have one thing in common. They only run you while they're invisible. The horse only bolts while the rider's asleep. Greene's entire secret, the thing underneath all 18 laws, is almost insultingly simple. Awareness is the off switch. If you can turn on the light long enough, the instant you can watch the anger rise instead of becoming it, you're no longer the horse. You're the one in the saddle who woke up. And from here, everything we go through is a direction up. And there's been real science-backed studies in the real world that you could enhance your prefrontal cortex by over 80% with meditation, daily journaling, and conscientious effort towards recognizing these patterns and not being controlled by it. As soon as it's made visible and you take conscious action to try to rewrite this story, your brain can actually rewrite the loop, and it's called neuroplasticity. This will help you become a more rational, blissful, and joyous, free human being. Here's the first tool, and it turns other people into an open book. Whatever irritates you about other people is almost always pointing back at you. Greene's law of envy, the law of projection running underneath it. The trait you can't stand out here is usually the one you've buried in here. The person whose arrogance enrages you is holding up a mirror to an arrogance you won't admit. This is the real psychology. Freud named it a century ego. Freud is actually a human being, by the way. And once you know it, it runs in two directions at once. Direction one, your irritation becomes a map to your shadow, as we mentioned before. Every strong ugh about someone is a coordinate. Follow it and you find a piece of the gold you buried. Direction two, and this is the power move. You can finally read them. The person drowning you in praise that feels a little off. Greene shows you how envy always disguises itself, never admits its name. It comes dressed as flattery, as a concern, as a moral outrage. Mary Shelley lost years to a friend whose hidden envy leaked out as 1,000 small sabotages. Once you can see it, you can never get blindsided by it again. The outer world, it turns out, is a mirror of the inner one. What you see in yourself, you can suddenly see in everyone. And you and I are about to turn that lens all the way up. Okay, now we go from reading reality to bending it. Greene's Law of Self-Sabotage. Your attitude isn't a reaction to life. It's the filter that generates the version of life you experience. Walk into a room, certain people are hostile, and you'll behave in the small defensive ways that make them hostile. The prophecy funds itself. Psychologists have a boring, well-documented name for it: the self-fulfilling prophecy. And it is one of the most powerful forces acting on your daily existence, which means the filter is a lever. Anton Chekhov grew up beaten and humiliated, every reason to see the world as cruel, and he deliberately built the opposite lens. He chose an expansive, almost fearless attitude, and he turned the poison of his childhood into some of the most humane work ever written. Same childhood that could have caved him, different filter, different reality. You've been running a filter you never chose, one installed by that child holding your strings. And you can feel right now that it can be swapped. That's not positive thinking. That's taking the reins back. One piece of the code left. And it's the one that takes all this energy and points it at something. Mask, wound, and the third arrives now. Every force we've dragged into the light has this same nature. It's raw energy. The aggression Greene says lives under everyone's polite face isn't evil. It's fuel that turns predatory when it's denied. Rockefeller took the chaos of a brutal childhood and channeled it, not suppressed it, aimed it, into a monopoly. Same fire that burns a life down can forge one, depending on one thing, whether you're holding it or it's holding you. And here's what gives the fire a direction: Greene's Law of Aimlessness. Without a why, all the energy just leaks into a distraction, into a resentment, into an endless scroll. He quotes Nietzsche: "A man who has a why to live can bear almost any how. The why is the hand on the string." Listen, guys, this book was written a while ago, and there has been a lot of recent scientific studies on neuroscience, and you can actually change these patterns. Greene says that it's better to forge them into a certain direction, but I don't think I would want to live a life like John D. Rockefeller. Personally, he might have been very wealthy, but he was greedy and bitter. I want to live a happy, fulfilled life, and if you really want to do that, don't channel it, because you'll just live a life of suffering. Nietzsche, the same man mentioned before, he said that life is suffering, and you just need to find purpose in the suffering. That is not true. I think life can actually be very beautiful and harmonious, and you can still forge that same exact path of success while facing those fears and rewriting your own neurological codes for you to be happy and fulfilled and full of passion while you chase your life. That sounds far better to me than being like John D. Rockefeller and absolutely suffering and hating everyone. Robert Greene isn't the most healthy man in the world either, so everything that you're hearing from this book isn't entirely true. I think there's lots of justification in here. He's trying to justify that it's better to just turn your perception outwards and start conquering the world with whatever passion you have. In my opinion, I just see that as avoidance. I think you really can rewrite your own neurological patterns and your childhood traumas and your shadow. You really can work on this, and this is proven with neuroscience, with enough conscientious effort. Robert Greene is a man who thinks very externally, and he tries to figure out the psychological profile of everyone around him so he can feel safe. And that's probably why he wrote this book. And I'm not trying to insult him in any way, I'm just trying to state a little bit clearly here that even him is biased while he's writing this book. He's biased and controlled by his own childhood traumas. So if this man who knows this much about psychology and studies it all day is still run by his own fears, well, I guess you got something to look into, friend. Greene ends his book where every honest teacher eventually lands. On the one deadline you're pretending you don't have. The law of death denial. You live as if time is infinite. So you scatter yourself, postpone the real work, tolerate the wrong room, keep the mask on, for now. But every moment you let the shortness of it become real. Not morbid, real. Something clarifies. Greene calls it the sublime. Flannery O'Connor, writing with the terminal illness, and she worked as if she could feel a bullet in her side. The pressure doesn't crush her, it focuses her into her best work. Death faced doesn't darken life, it's the gravity that makes it better. So, remember the 3 things I said run every human being? Here they are. And once you have them, you have the whole operating manual. 1. The mask. You perform a self and forget it's a performance. You see it, and you take it off at will, and read everyone who can't. 2. The wound. A child you've forgotten, engraved your patterns, and still holds the reins. See it, and the compulsion becomes a choice. 3. The mirror. The world reflects back what you buried. What you find in yourself, you can read in anyone. Master yourself. You see everyone clearly. See it, and no one is unreadable, including you. Mask, wound, mirror. That's it. That's the machine in every person you'll ever meet. And here's the secret. You can take the reins back, and you can ride the horse. The horse won't ride you. That sounded kind of weird.
You weird, buddy.
Regardless, you'll have the reins. You walked in as the horse. You leave as the rider. That's the only shift there ever was.
I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate it so much. Even if you didn't like the video, I am still extremely grateful. You're supporting just enough by watching. And I'm looking to give you the highest quality content possible, the most efficient for your time and energy, in order for you to gain as much value as possible. And that's my goal with these videos. This is actually my first video I've ever posted, believe it or not, on this channel and any other. And so I am trying to improve my video quality as much as possible and trying to give you better and better information. If you would like to help me with my next videos and my next video ideas, that would be much appreciated. Give me some ideas in the comment section, any books that you want to review on or any specific topics. I'm very interested in psychology, philosophy, and I'm also a Christian. Irrelevant, but love you guys so much. Have a good one.